Welcome to Uplink, where we explore the world of digital infrastructure, uncovering the technology fueling AI and cloud innovation with the leaders making it happen. I'm your host, Michael Reed, and my guest today is Chris Sharp, Chief Technology Officer at Digital Realty, one of the companies quite literally powering the future of AI and compute. Let's dive in. Chris, you've been in this game for a while.
Yeah.
It seems to be the hottest space on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Like, what's changed? It's sort of, it's come from, I don't know, you started before .com,
Yeah.
You saw that explode, you saw that come through. Data centers were interesting. Now they're the coolest place to be.
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
What's going on?
All the trends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting, I mean, it's 20 plus years, right? And just watching the multiple secular trends come into the market, right? Where, you know, I came from networking,
Yeah.
and you kind of saw the writing on the wall where networks are a critical component, just like Megaport, right? Like
Yep.
you have to interconnect these things and then live the whole, let's build data centers, and watching where the value was being created. And a lot of that was in the data center. And that was just the early days of like content distribution.
Yeah.
That was a big problem we were all solving
Yeah.
for at that time.
Which was solving for the internet and getting that close to folks. Yeah.
Latency,
Yeah.
you know, proximity to the actual consumer, then cloud, right? And I think people forget there's a long time where data center operators, cloud friend or foe, and we had to educate the market
Yeah.
on the cloud lives
Yeah,
somewhere.
the cloud's going to take everything away from data centers. It's irrelevant. Actually, it turns out the clouds are in the data center.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, like believe me, there was some storied big names of investors where I was like,
it's
slow
all
down.
over. The dream is over.
The server, it just moved. And they're like, what? And so you had to slow that
But
down.
it's the same building.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
whole building is moved from this building to that.
Exactly. Well, long story short, it wasn't, because I was colo only at that time.
Okay.
But
Oh.
now the shared work, like we get to benefit
course.
from both workloads of private and public
Yes.
side of the cloud. So
I see you build both.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
digital really pervasive,
Yeah.
tab, cage, megawatts, hundreds of megawatts.
Yes.
Right? And interconnecting all those with our partners.
Yeah.
That is the most pervasive platform in the market today. But to answer your question, I just want to close off on when we saw cloud, we learned a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember for many, like almost 2 years, we were consuming the cloud over transit, over the internet. And people forget those days.
Yeah.
And
Early days. Yeah.
how we really got the data center to be relevant to the cloud is providing private access, right?
Connectivity. Yeah.
That private access with everything.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you guys are at the epicenter of that, this enabling hybrid multi-cloud, multiple destinations in the most simplistic fashion.
Yes.
That's what brought the true colo type data center environments relevant to the cloud, is allowing that true business class consumption of these public services.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think was foundational in watching that data center gain in relevance and enabling that hybrid multi-cloud scenario. But then now AI, it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
How do you consume AI today?
Yeah. Well.
Most people, transit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just,
That's true.
you're going to have to relive this thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you
It's
know,
like the next cloud in effect.
yeah. So we've been talking about with Megaport and everybody, like private AI exchanges are going to be a requirement to
Yes.
find efficiencies, and quite frankly, that interconnection workflow, if you will, and requirements around throughput.
Yeah.
It's going to change, right?
Well, I think you're in 25 plus countries, and so what we're seeing, and I know you see this because a lot of these GPU as a service companies that are appearing out of nowhere, and they're different to the cloud providers, of which there was started with one,
Yes.
and then became two, and then three. But we're seeing sort of a lot of random companies appear. They're actually deploying in a lot of your data centers all around the world,
Yeah.
and then they land with all these GPUs, and they think, "How do I connect to them?"
Right.
I forgot that bit. You know,
Right.
it's like this
Right.
interesting. That's the last thought inside most people's head. But how are you seeing that play out? Do you think it becomes fragmented? Do they consolidate? It feels like GPUs are moving so fast.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, the old GPU is a new GPU. Jensen's like innovating so
Yeah.
quickly. It's
Yeah.
super.
Yeah.
What do you see?
Yeah.
Like,
So
how does this play out?
I kind of take a step back and give you a framework on how we think about it and how we talk with our customers, right? And, you know, it is evolving quickly. And so we're always being mindful of what our customers are trying to achieve. And so the most simplistic way to think about it is tokens to watts to dollars. Like, what is your token production, which is the most simplistic output from an AI kind of algorithm? And how many do you need? Like, is there proximity values? Is there a latency scenario? And where does that token have to be delivered? That's really where you start to dig into how are these things going to be performing over time? The second thing we look at is watts, not only power capacity, but the density of that power. And so that's
about close, keeping them all close to each other.
Well, no, it's the thermal density required for like these NVIDIA chipsets.
Oh yeah,
so
just the sheer.
For I've been at Digital 10 years, but for the 10 years we've been here, we've always been looking at and working with NVIDIA and these partners with DGX certification program. There's so many data centers that can't support that power density within the rack. And the last one is dollars, not just the dollars to buy it, but then how to operate it.
And is that power mainly, or is that
it's both? Like because of the expense to build out this particularly AI infrastructure, it's rather expensive, right? I mean, a 32 megawatt build can be over $1 billion.
Wow.
And so you don't want to get stuck in that, but then you also want to watch, to your point, the operation of that.
Yes.
So to answer your question directly, if you're always thinking about that equation and finding the efficiencies in it, you'll have a good outcome.
Yes.
And so with your neo clouds or these GPUs as service providers coming to market, we're always watching how they're.
What do you mean neo clouds?
That's the name that I think Gartner or one of the analysts gave this sector. They're calling them neo clouds. So the new cloud.
Yes.
Bringing these GPUs to market. And we're watching that, and this is why I always orient people back to the lessons learned that we collectively as an industry learned, is that bare metal as a service, we've all seen a lot of the stuff, the starts and stops of these businesses.
Super capital intense.
Yeah, it's capital intense. You have a window of opportunity to get return on capital, and the obsolescence factor.
To replace
it's really tough. And so you're right, NVIDIA with the rhythm of chips that they continue to bring back and innovate.
Crazy. They're moving so fast.
So fast.
Like, that's what's weird. It's like the perfect storm's arrived, and most of the time, and if you rewind back to 2000, it was like, let's just roll out fiber cables. But they weren't innovating that much. It's like a piece of glass. That maybe it's getting faster, optics or what have you. But now we'll look at Jensen, every year he seems to be quadrupling the speed at these things. And so, you just got to keep updating them, or I don't know, what's the...
You're going to see a lot of shifts, right? Like, so these neo clouds or GPU service, you're going to see everybody start talking about token as a service, right? Because they want to obfuscate the hardware underneath.
The outcome is
like you just want to buy tokens and you don't need to see underneath it. And the pricing of these tokens, and I'm happy to go into detail, like some of the newer models coming out.
Nice, interesting.
And how we think about it, but like that innovation factor on learning from fiber, and we're constantly watching how we as digital can be performant in supporting not just the market today, but future-proofing where we see our major customers going, because, we've grown up supporting the largest hyperscalers in the world. And so we've been looking at how this is going to evolve and how we can sit down and be foundational to their success without going up the stack, if you will. And that's where I think these GPUs as a service, they are popping up all over the world. I think it's interesting that the workloads are pervasive for AI. It's not vertical specific. We're still early days. So it's exciting times, but you really want to watch that efficiency factor, like I talked about, tokens, watts to dollars.
And so do you look at country, when you've got an ability to go anywhere in the world, because you've got all those locations, are you looking for low-cost power options, or is it more the US at the moment? How's it all sort of playing out on a global sense?
We spend a lot of time, like our capital, like at the core of what we do for our shareholders is efficient allocation of capital. And so we're looking at the market dynamics. One perspective is price of power, but more times than not now it's availability of power.
Access.
Oh my gosh. The interconnects in a lot of these core markets, it's tough.
It's full,
the company's been around for 20 years. Again, I've been there 10. We master plan with the community, with the utility operators to have that long runway in large capacity blocks. That's our heritage, and our asset class speaks to that. So we're really watching the dynamic within the market, where it's not just, how much it costs, but it's the availability. And so working that balance in each of these markets is what we do for our customers. And it's not easy, right? The supply demand imbalance is definitely out of whack right now.
That's the, what I find, like publicly, everyone, so data centers became cool. ChatGPT appeared. Now everyone's in the data center again. And they're all, like you see, I don't know, there's some really interesting public figures out there now buying land in
100%.
all these sort of places. Never been in data centers in life, but they're real estate developers apparently, and they're going to build all these data centers. The point is, it's a long build. It takes time. You got to know what you're doing. You guys have been doing this a long time. Not only do you have to physically build it and build it in a way that caters for all of these challenges that come with crazy amount of power and support and protection and safety and security, and you got to find the power and do, I think, agreements with the the states or wherever it is?
Yeah,
What do you
the
think?
entitlement is it's a culmination of events that have to come together to get a data center turned up and powered up.
So do you find it funny? Like seeing all everyone's in the like.
I don't want to be disparaging.
I got random
towards
builders
anybody.
coming like telling me they're going to be building data centers. I'm like, what are you doing?
This will make a lot of people laugh. I'll take the high road and I'll be on the positive answer of that. I think not all data centers are equal.
Yeah.
Like I really impress that, and that's why a lot of our bellwether customers continue to come to us on a global basis. It's not only getting it built, but then it's operationalizing it as well.
Run.
And the modularity required inside of these data center builds, right? Because like when I bring one to market, you want it to be relevant for 20 years, 20 plus years. And so being able to bring in the electric distribution, the cooling, and constantly ideate with our customers based upon how the infrastructure evolves, that takes a balance and a heritage of engineering talent.
Yes.
That, we've been perfecting this over 20 years. So there are a lot of upstarts. We don't put our capital into, far off markets where we don't see that durable workload lasting for a longer period of time.
Yeah, like in some weird place.
We're really, we're really proximate to the city center. That's kind of our core focus and differentiation going forward, which is,
and it's a long-term asset. Then if something's slowed, you can build it with something else. You can switch it to colo, or you could hyperscale traditional.
And that's where it's a little harder than just going, hey, colo, hyperscale, but like having that versatility in the four walls of the facility is absolutely critical. And that's where we've differentiated ourselves. When I joined, and people might not know this, I joined like the day we closed on Telex. Because I wanted to make sure that we would have the culmination of capabilities coming to market, because the reason why I changed in my career coming from Equinix to Digital Realty is I kind of saw the fact that customers were outgrowing a colo only model and needed larger and larger capacity blocks, right? So phase 1, phase 2 was great, but then phase 3,
taking a much bigger,
and that's only grown exponentially with recent AI, and then it just took a different form factor. And then working with you, right? Like one of the first things I did is we got our partnership set up with Megaport.
I think you're the reason we even landed in the United States.
100%. I mean, we were forming and thinking through that it needs to be an open platform, right? Because also people miss, like, you got to really be mindful of not only where your data is being created, where you want to store your data. You want to be in an open platform, because it's not going to happen in one single data center in one market or one provider.
You
need choice, and you need to be able to do that easily.
And that is probably unique. If you look at a lot of traditional companies, they consolidate globally. Take Amazon, it all shrink. Eventually it takes down to Amazon, Apple, Google, all these things. Data centers are still, even though you're a monster, but there's a lot of other data centers out there. It's like quite disparate in terms of the number of companies that are operate. And I think that's probably because it's more of a real estate play, slightly different to...
Yeah. I mean, like I often get joked with that you're a technologist at a real estate company, right? Like, what are you doing, right? And then they kind of start to dig into what I do at Digital Realty. You need both, right? You need the acumen to understand where the land is, the entitlement to the land, and understanding how to grow. Like, just to pick on one of our largest markets and how it came to fruition is Ashburn, Virginia.
Yeah.
Right? Like that took a master, like that took a,
that
was a master stroke from a real estate side.
Yes.
Like we have multiple campuses there, over a gigawatt. I mean, it's the epicenter of cloud, and it will become the epicenter of AI as well.
And they're stretched for power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're working through that. But like what's nice is, just to your real estate point, it takes a bit of that, but you also have to marry that with the technical acumen of the designs, the services, to enable your customers to be successful and find that runway. Because we have a Digital Dulles is another gig coming online right next to the airport. I mean, we are going to continue to support our customers in that evolution.
So one thing I always love about, I think, your role, and I think that anyone listening would get insight from, you're kind of at the tippy top of it all in terms of engaging with NVIDIA as an example, or Supermicro, or whoever it may be, Dell, all these different interesting cats, but you're seeing what they're seeing around the corner. And I know you can't share a lot of that publicly, but any interesting insights just to what you're seeing? I mean, NVIDIA is obviously the really interesting one. I know you're close with those guys. So what are you seeing? It's kind of mind-boggling, like looking into that thing.
I mean, I don't know. It's the core of your question is what's kept me in the data center business for so long.
Well, you're a very curious guy.
Yeah, no, I love to learn. Love to learn. I love to innovate, and innovating in a vacuum is no good. And so having exposure to all of the different types of operators, NVIDIA being one, a lot of our customers, the amount of work that we get to do with them privately and in different labs, it's what shapes the outcome that a lot of our enterprises get the benefit of. Right? Like early days, like people may remember, like we worked with Zynga, and Zynga wrote a kind of an early blog where they were doing Farmville.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And like
Yeah.
there was a blog, and it was phenomenal because he's like, I want Google economics. Right? Like I'm an enterprise and I'm paying 30-40% more than what Google's getting. Like, why?
Yeah.
And so similar to technology and how it's going to evolve, not only on a cost basis, but you really want to stay close. And we learn, and a lot of our enterprises benefit from a lot of what we're seeing come from a lot of our partners. And NVIDIA is one, particularly in the GPU space, just really staying aligned to them, not only on the rapid innovation of chipsets that come to market, but
which is insane.
It's absolutely fast. But I think, again, they're one of the fastest innovators out there to really be performant in, what they've brought to market. And just to give one highlight that I can talk about because it's public is up in Denmark, right? So we won a major deployment with Novo Nordisk called Gefion. Okay. And Jensen went and visited it and sat down, and it was a great talk because what he saw that Novo Nordisk Foundation was doing in this facility, he called it a center of intelligence, right? Because it's not just around the infrastructure and the tech stack, it's what's being done with the software.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. And so, it's one of the largest DGX pods in Europe, and being able to support that rather quickly with our platform up in Denmark, where they wanted to be close to where their corporate headquarters were, a bit of data sovereignty. It's phenomenal what we're able to do as a collective to support that. And some of these hyperscalers with interconnectivity and a lot of the on-ramps that have been coming to market and evolving our on-ramp strategies and just removing complexity from the enterprise is where I see a lot of the dialogue I have with these hyperscalers, because we've interconnected and we've done a great job for the hybrid multi-cloud, but we really need to start thinking about what's going to be required for enabling AI.
Yeah.
Right? Because private consumption has to happen, higher capacity throughputs have to happen. It's not about lower latency, it's about consistency latency. Because like one of the things I will impress upon everybody, if you're not thinking about the internet working within the four walls of the data center where most of the conversations happen, beyond the four walls is even more important, right? Because as new models come to market with reasoning, generating a token with reasoning, it might have to go through 3 or 4 models to really truly answer the output of what the original request was.
Yes.
So those types of things are going to continually put pressure on us because bimodal, it's here, right? If you're going to get video, like one of the greatest use cases I got exposed to is NPCs, right? Non-player characters in games. Super latency sensitive. And like my son, Mason, and Samantha, they love Roblox, right? Yeah. And the worlds that are being built. Oh my gosh. And like, so I think like, that's kind of like what we saw with Farmville way back in the day, where I joked with people because we were talking like, well, what do you do? And like, we help you sell pigs faster. And they're like, what? And like, it's a cross connect. And so hopefully in the not too distant future, I'm going to tell my kids that character right there, we help that communicate in a more human fashion inside of your game.
Yeah. Our NPCs are kicking your ass.
Yeah.
Which the latency is perfect.
Exactly.
I got another question for you. Lots of data centers build locally, so there'll be a bunch in the US, but they don't expand to different countries. The complexities that come, there's plenty of reasons why, there's jurisdictions, but something you'll see that I think most others won't is how AI plays out for sovereign and the governments, and look, every government's going to be different. It's moving so quickly, regulation in each place. Do they want this sovereign data? How's it playing out on the government side of things?
I think AI again is pervasive, right? And it's sovereignty, the sovereign clouds or the sovereign AIs being built out. I think you'll see a lot of that, and I think those will be kind of purpose-built for their outcome. It is lagging.
It's
I don't know. Maybe it's important to kind of. I always give things frameworks that help everybody think about it. So in the world of disruption, which is kind of what we're talking about, with some people are ahead or behind, I always watch 3 factors. There's hardware, right? There's the hardware, how performant it's going to come, what's the power requirements associated with it, like the token production, the watts to flops inside of these chips. I'm always watching that, right? Because if you have something come out and it can do, in 100 kilowatts, what we were doing with a megawatt, that changes. And so we're always watching that.
Yeah.
The second bucket is software, right? And
Which could also influence the first.
100%. It does influence the first.
Yeah.
That's why it's the second kind of critical component. So that software element, we're always watching in like OpenAI, like how is it performant, the APIs, when they brought out Omni with voice, and you just keep watching some of the core technologies in it. And I think most recently, and I'd be dismissed not to mention it, but if you want to do some research, it's most recently come into the press in the past like 60 days, DeepSeek. You should go read about it, right? Because it's 96% cheaper per token than like an OpenAI, and it uses a lot less power or compute cycles to produce that. So there's a lot of impact. It changed the game. So your point around some soft, like maybe they're behind, maybe they're not, because the software is evolving so quickly. Maybe you don't have to do it like some of the others originally did it to get the same outcome.
Yes, well, hopefully, because it's a huge capital. And then
the capital. But I think it's pervasive again, that I don't think the demand is going to shift, but how you got to that end answer is going to change. Third bucket, and this is near and dear to our heart, right? Like I've grown my career through internetworking, like having built the first on-ramp and cloud exchange. That is what I did at Equinix. And it's the third bucket is networking. Right? Because
which is the bit that they always forget. It's like everyone's talking about power,
nobody
land, and they're going, it's all good. And then they go, hang on.
No, we got, and like right now, 24 was the year of land grab, right? 25 is going to be the year of efficiencies. Because we were just building networks everywhere because time to market was critical. And they also weren't thinking through and because the way the models were very arcane and like it's training and then it's inference, right? But now you're seeing these models where the inference has micro kind of training within it, sort of keeps up to date, and the mixture of experts coming into these models, that takes a different type of networking, which is why we often talk about the private AI exchange. It takes a community like us and others to come together to solve that.
To connect to all of this. That's cool. The last one is on that. Do countries need to think about the power generation inside those countries? Like we're getting to a point where these data centers are consuming, you give us some stats on some of that gigawatts of power that's being used. I mean, a data center is going to consume like almost what a country's. Is that?
A little bit. I mean, like one of the things that I often always try to hit on is like the value of the data center is becoming more and more understood. Right. But it does take a good bit of power. But I think the value generated by that power is an important element to it. But like,
that's where countries need to think about what they're
how they allocate. How they allocate.
You think Australia, they don't think there's enough power to deliver this. So then do you fall behind as a country?
A country,
If you can't, and then it takes you 20 years to build the power. So you're like,
the same in America, right? Like we're always watching, like, because the grid is constrained in most places, and it's not only around production, it's distribution. So it's a concerning scenario. But I always watch, like, we run a little under 3 gigawatts today. We have 3 gigawatts coming online.
Crazy.
We're really
doubling
because
the power,
the supply demand. I mean, it is crazy days, which I mean has changed this conference, right? And
but chatting before, like a lot of folks here trying to work out where to deploy capital right now.
100%. Like I was doing an interview it was a while ago, and it was with BBC, and he was like, "So what else don't I know?" And I'm like, because I'm like, well, nuclear is going to be a real deal. And he's like, what? And so he wrote about like, data center operators going to do nuclear. And then you see all these nuclear deals recently, but not traditional nuclear, but new nuclear. And I'd be remiss not to talk about the generation.
Yes.
Right. And I think I've been excited and working with a lot of SMR providers like Oklo and some of these other ones
which is small medium reactor.
Small modular.
Small modular.
It's an elegant solution, right? You can tuck it in the grid. You can so it overcomes the grid limitations. It's, I mean, the way they use
and then much quicker to build.
Much cheaper. They feel like, but there's a lot of we don't want to rush into it. We want to make sure it's safe. But even the recycled fissile material and stuff that they're able to use. I mean, there's no way around it. It's a great story for humanity because it really alleviates a lot of that carbon pressure that we're under today.
Which is, I think, lots of different countries are trying to figure that piece out. But I always think the nature of the United States, when they find an opportunity, when companies find opportunities that they're constrained by something, if it's not the government that will solve for it, the corporations solve for it. That's what we look at to. 100%. Really interesting companies now getting into like power gen. Just like something you'd never consider.
We were doing an opening in one of our data centers in Tokyo, and the PR team inside were like, you cannot talk about nuclear. Like, do not talk. I got more questions at this opening about nuclear, because even in that market, they're just thinking through exactly what you're asking. They don't want to be left behind. They want it safe. And
that's a worry.
People are embracing this. Yeah.
Well, it's moving so fast, and if the country is left behind and can't offer that, it will go elsewhere, and it becomes like,
the workload moves.
Yeah, and then you miss out, and you can't provide it. I mean, can you catch up? I don't know. It's like it's wild.
100%.
Hey, thanks for taking the time, but thank you for actually investing in Megaport.
Yeah.
I don't know what year it was.
Yeah.
But you're the reason we landed in the US. It's our largest market. It's still growing the fastest for us. We think we're just scratching the surface. We still think we're still educating the market that network as a service is actually a thing, and and you can deliver connectivity in 60 seconds. So thank you for that partnership. We'll keep building in your data centers wherever you land. That makes sense for us to
100%.
Thank you for
the opportunity, and thanks for the partnership as well. And it's a critical thing to continue to focus on. So thank you.
Pleasure. Cheers.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris. Awesome, mate.